I'm Claudia Pettway Charley from Gee's Bend, Alabama, home of the Quilters of Gee's Bend. I am here today with the Kentuck Art Museum doing my artist talk for Good Trouble in Northport, Alabama. Gee's Bend is a rural community in Wilcox County, Alabama. That is home for me. I am a fourth generational Gee's Bend quilter there. And the community is known for its quilting, fishing, and farming because that was our way of survival during those times. The community has always been a tight-knit community in the bend of the Alabama River, so they're definitely isolated from most things. So it's very, very close. Everybody's family, everyone knows everyone there in Gee's Bend. And we're very helpful. We are a group of people that help one another, where you can go to anyone's house and have dinner and it's not a problem. You don't have to have an invitation to show up. You can just show up freely. Those are the type of people that that's there in Gee's Bend. We're very religious. We had no one to depend on but the Lord and each other. So that was something that still today is pretty much the same for Gee's Bend. Growing up there for me, I went to elementary school there, and of course our teachers in school were our Sunday school teachers at church. So Gee's Bend is one of those places that when you grow up the way I grew up and you move away, you find things very, very different that you would think would be strange to others, but for you it's really, it's really, really strange. So it's interesting how Gee's Bend raised me to be a giver, I think. Free-heartedness people. People that never meet strangers. So that's Gee's Bend. It's a lovely place. Back in those days, fabric was limited for the women. The winter and the way the plantation houses were made was there was only one fireplace. There was not any type of central heating or anything like that. And the fireplace would be located in the living room of the house. Most of the houses were 3-bedroom. So the quilting came about as definitely a way of surviving the winter months, to keep the families warm. Also quilts were used for so many things back then. They used them for the pipes. Now they take you to leave the water dripping. But back then they would actually wrap the pipes in tattered quilts, where those quilts would be so bad that they were no more usable on beds. They also used them to keep the farm animals warm. Saddlebags for the horses. Covering for the animals, like if you had dogs and cats. Different uses. They made brooms, or maybe I should say mops from the tattered and torn quilts. So it was never about art. In my grandmother's days, she wouldn't believe what these quilts have turned into. And so what happened was they never made quilts by patterns, because again, most of the women did not even have a 6th grade education. So they wasn't good with math and that type of thing. So basically everything came from the heart and the head of the quilter. Also, it was a time that they would reflect and come together, and they would sing, hymns and things like that. They would discuss their family issues and problems within the households. So it was therapeutic. Now people go see psychiatrists. Back then the quilters would get together and that was it for them. Most of the quilts were made from sacks, feed sacks, and things like that they would find or they would keep after all the seed and feed was gone from them. They would take them, they would wash them, and sometimes they would bleach them and everything like that. Other fabrics they would use was denim. denim was very popular for G's band because most of the men farmed and they would wear overalls. And when those overalls got to the point that they were no more wearable, they turned into quilts. So we had a lot of denim back in those days. There is one particular piece that my Aunt Minnie Pettway did. That is, again, that popular color of denim. The name of that quilt is She Goes. And somebody said, well, why would you name it She Goes? Well, back then, all the denim was mostly worn by the men. Rarely did you see women, in denim. So she kind of put the idea together that, not only men back then could wear blue jeans and denim, we can too. So she put the quilt together. She's like, there she goes in her denim. So we named it, She Goes, and it's strictly a 100% denim quilt. Another piece that we have is called The Table is Spread. And basically, that particular quilt is full of colors. Because usually if you think about a menu and you think about all the different foods, and on Sundays, families would get together and they would, have dinner maybe at one person's house, and you would have all these different dishes laid out, on the table with all the different colors and bowls that did not match, or nothing like that. Whatever you had, whatever they had is what was used. So you end up with this big spread of just all this food. So my mother actually made the quilt, Claudia Pettway, my mother. The Table is Spread, and it's a beautiful quilt that's just designed symmetrical with a whole lot of blended colors together. And another thing about G's band and quilts is that nothing necessarily had to match because the material was not readily available. So you get a lot of colors and different things within the quilt, but mostly all the quilts are made of cotton or denim. One of the things that I was born in, way back then, but I was a baby. But one of the things they talk about is the voting rights of the women, particularly, and of course, the blacks. Is that my aunt, Minnie Pettway, and my grandfather, they were some of the first people to actually get registered in Wilcox County. Because of G's being so small, our county seat was in a little city called Camden, Alabama. So we would actually have to go there to get, registered and all of that. And they would talk about, how much how hard it was, back then to just be heard, to have an outlet to view your opinion of why you think that your vote is just as important as anybody else's. And for a long time, some of the other quilters were actually involved in movements where they remember being sprayed, with hoses and dogs and different things like that would attack because they just wanted to be able to vote and have an opportunity to do so. And of course, raised in G's band, the women really had a hard time. I mean, the men, yes, but you were double if you were a woman and trying to get anything done. I used to think it was just in G's band until I discovered that it was more well known than I thought, because I figured that we were so country that maybe they just had this whole attitude and way of thinking that the woman was always behind the man, and it was all about what they said as opposed to what was equal. So, but I learned differently, over time and everything like that. It's gratifying for me to know that I could put something together that could make a difference, enough for someone to want to have a piece of that, to take with them, to glean from, to learn from, to tell a story from, and that would mean something to me. So it's very refreshing. It's very, I feel I feel blessed to be able to share something with someone. And we're grateful that they embraced us. Sometimes I think a little too much embrace, because again, we're not we're not huggy people, So that part is kind of funny, but we are very grateful and thankful that we were able to do something in our little community of Gee's Bend. No education, left behind, totally isolated in Alabama. So that, bringing Alabama itself to the forefront. When they always say, Alabama backwoods, the last to know everything, the last to do anything. And here we are, here's Alabama, right up there, competing and sometimes beyond other genres in this particular craft. So.